would.
HDS, sir. And how are you this afternoon? Alrighty then. I have a package for you.
Sounds broken.
Most likely, sir. I'll bet it was something nice, though.
This girl, how far are you willing to go to save her? I'd die for her. Oh, good. Now, where is it? Drop that zero and give it to hero.
Dude, what does my tattoo say? Sweet! What about mine? Dude, what does mine say? Sweet! What about mine?
Punch yourself in the mouth. What? You heard me. Punch yourself in the mouth. Right now, it's an order.
Spoiler alert, season 2 is on the way, so in the end, he obviously didn't kill himself, just like Jeffrey Epstein. Shut up! I know he's your friend, but I don't care.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the intersection of faith, family, and filmmaking. You're listening to Fearless with Mark and Amber, a behind the scenes of our filmmaking ministry, Fearless Features, where we are creating educational documentary films about the issues impacting our culture and society from a biblical perspective, and pursuing truth above all else. I'm Amber Archer, and joining me is my husband, author, director, speaker, Mark Archer.
Give daddy some sugar!
You can learn more about us and the movies we're making by visiting fearlessfeatures.org. It's also a great place to make that one-time or monthly donation if you are passionate about reaching the lost for Christ through film. Visit fearlessfeatures.org to share your support today.
Alrighty then.
Here we are.
Back for another episode.
Special guest today.
Yes.
Very exciting.
I'm excited to have guest Erin Lee, who was in our movie Dysphoria.
And Title IX.
Yeah. Yeah, so excited to talk to her and catch up to see what's going on in California. I'm sorry, not California, Colorado.
Might as well be California.
But they started with C.
Bunch of crazies.
Yeah.
Except Erin, she's not.
Crazy, California, Colorado.
Colorado has gone completely insane.
Whoa, nuts. So when you guys listen and hear our interview today, take note, because what happens in some of these states, it does not stay in these states. It absolutely moves. We see so much of it go from the coast, but now you've got Colorado. I don't know what happened. She tells us.
Yeah, she tells you exactly how, and she's going to show you a book that you can read to see exactly what the strategy was.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we got next couple weeks, we got some special guests, and then we'll get back to our occult studies. Yay.
We had to take a break, pause.
We need a break, same as everybody else.
Yeah.
So
we're excited, gearing up for the Faith Forward Pastor Summit in Gainesville, Georgia, March 18th through the 20th. So we're excited to go down and fellowship and learn and just network with a bunch of different pastors and bring back some information on things that we've learned.
Yeah. And so be in prayer for us, because part of what our motivation is in going down there is we want to meet other warriors. Yeah. We want to meet pastors who are bold enough to speak out on these issues, because that's, we've kind of observed that we have almost more of a pastoral ministry to our audiences than a lot of pastors do.
And it just shouldn't be that way. Because
of just by sheer fact that we will speak about these things.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that way.
Right.
That's right. I'm not a pastor. I'm just a camera guy.
Hey, but we do study the scriptures. So, I mean, everything is from a biblical worldview, biblical foundation. Yeah. And so I understand when people ask questions, and we're happy to oblige and help where we can. But the local church really needs to be speaking on these issues if we want to affect any sort of change in our communities.
Yeah. The time for hiding, the time for the silent majority is dead and gone. No more. We cannot be silent. If we're the majority, we need to be vocal. We have to get out and speak about these things. If your pastor won't, then you need to encourage him to do so.
Yeah.
And hook him up with this podcast. We'll help him have the resources to do it.
Yeah, without further ado, let's get to our interview with Erin Lee.
Here's Erin.
Hey, podcast listeners. I want to tell you about an exciting opportunity Mark and I have been presented with. A chance to unite and network with strong, steadfast, Bible-believing pastors from across the nation at an upcoming Faith Forward Pastor Summit hosted by TPUSA Faith, an initiative of Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA. These leaders are dedicated to fortifying their flocks amid our ever-changing culture, and we feel called to join them in this mission. This wasn't initially in our plans for the year, but through contemplation and prayer, we sense the Lord guiding us towards this path. Pastor Rob McCoy and Pastor Micah Beckwith, voices from our film Dysphoria, will share their insights at this pivotal event, along with many others. Moreover, our documentary, The Mind Polluters, garnered attention at their inaugural summit years ago. This is where you, our cherished community, come in. Through our nonprofit Fearless Features, we are seeking your support to help us seize this invaluable chance to intertwine our cinematic endeavors with the courageous efforts of these pastors. Your donation, no matter the size or amount, will help assist us in transportation, accommodation, meals, and more, ensuring we can make the most of this occasion while in Gainesville, Georgia. Will you partner with us in this endeavor to fortify and spreading the kingdom's reach with boldness and love? Scan the QR code on the screen or click the link below, and you can share your support. Thank you for your prayerful consideration and joining us for today's podcast. Well, hello, Erin Lee. It is so good to be back with you. And I'm excited to have you on the podcast today just to tell people what's been going on in Colorado. So if you would do me a favor, give us a rundown of what's going on in your life, the things that you've been doing since Dysphoria, because you're just on a mission.
Yeah. Well, it's good to see you, friends. It's been a while since we recorded Dysphoria.
Yeah.
Transpired. So for people who've watched the film, hopefully everyone has. I'm a mom of a little girl who at 12 years old was recruited into a secret gender and sexuality club and convinced by radical activists that she's actually a transgender boy, that her normal pubescent discomfort and her, quirkiness, her inability to fit in with what's cool means she's actually transgender. And that sent us down a dangerous, dark year for our whole family, just trying to get her out of this distress. And really, it's a cult. I mean, we worked hard to get our daughter out of the cult. They had their grasp on her just from public schooling and one 90-minute meeting where they convinced her of all of these horrific lies and, pushed her to medicalize and pushed her to keep secrets and really fostered a self-hatred. And so we went through a suicidal ideation period where we thought we were going to lose her forever. And about a year into it, we were able to free her from this mentality. And now it's 4 years later, that was almost 4 years ago, that she was in that art club. And we went public a year later after the incident, once we had gotten her out. And she's now just a happy, healthy, just turned 16-year-old girl who is thriving because we are one of the lucky ones who was able to get her out of the cult. And since then, we've made our own film. Actually, it's called Art Club. It's at artclubmovie.com. It's available for free. I am no Mark and Amber Archer, so it's not quite your quality. It really gives an intimate look at our story, and it features January Littlejohn, who's also in Dysphoria, and Alex Newman, who's also in Dysphoria, American College of Pediatricians, Family Research Council, just some great expert insight into how this is happening and what we can do about it. And I encourage people to watch and share it. Again, it's available for free on YouTube. And I also co-founded Protect Kids Colorado, which is a grassroots movement of parents, grandparents, doctors, teachers, everyone who cares about protecting kids from gender ideology in Colorado. And we took a run at the ballot in 2024. We had no money. We had $250,000 thrown against us. We were challenged in court. I was sued to the Supreme Court. We ended up having about 80 days to get 125,000 signatures to get on the ballot with no money, no time. And we built a grassroots army of over 1,000 volunteers in the state. We got almost 80,000 signatures in 80 days.
Wow.
It's never been done. The most that's ever been gotten in Colorado is 20,000 signatures with a full 6-month timeline. So we really learned through this process that these issues are universally condemned. I mean, over 80% of Americans, it was more than 80% here in Colorado, don't believe men should be in women's single-sex spaces. They don't believe children should be mutilated in the name of gender ideology. They don't believe parents should be completely left in the dark about our children's psychosocial, mental distress that they're going through at school. And so it was so encouraging to bring together people from every walk of life. We had, lesbian, gay people joining. We had atheists that were part of our coalition. We kind of just said, we're going to set all of our fundamental differences aside because we have a common shared goal of protecting kids from this insidious ideology. And it was amazing to see people come together. And I really think a testament to how we're going to change these blue states like Colorado.
Well, many hands make light work. I mean, and for us, we look at it and say, wow, look what the Lord is doing through a small group of people. Really, 1,000 people is not a lot when you look at the entire state and what you're trying to accomplish. And so it is a remarkable accomplishment, and just kudos.
It really was. I think the Lord bringing the right people together at the right time. It was actually a kind of famous pastor, Lance Wallnau, out of Texas, who's a spiritual advisor to Trump, who brought this idea to us of ballot initiatives. And he brought faith leaders and legislators, all mighty believers, into a room to say, okay, what are we going to do about this? And so really, we're very much a spirit-led group, but it's been amazing to watch people. We're really bringing people into the kingdom by saying we're doing God's work. We're fighting good versus evil here. And you're welcome in our fight. And it's been so cool to see people's hearts change and to see people start to pray for each other who otherwise wouldn't have. And the work is so much bigger than stopping gender ideology. It's bringing the kingdom to earth. It's rising up the church to do the work that has to be done to save this state, but our entire country. So cool to be a part of it.
That's what we say all the time. We're on a rescue mission. Like, people, when you look at it, it really is. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. People need the Lord, and I'm here for it. You're here for it. So tell us what's been going on in Colorado, because I've seen quite a few of your posts. Oh, and before we do that, though, when you said you're now 4 years removed from that incident, and I thought, and you still continually get harassed from the facilitator there of that art club, correct?
I'm so glad that you all featured that in Dysphoria, that I've been harassed with Antifa and these groomers who got a hold of my child. Yeah, they made a hashtag of my daughter's name and they post these really disgusting, violent things to my child, and the police won't do anything about it. And, as I said, Antifa shows up at school board meetings. I've had my home broken into. It was constant harassment. I'm really at peace with it, though. 4 years into it, it's like I was this weak, meek person when the Lord called me into this fight. And I'm like, are you sure you want me to be leading this charge? And, here I am. He brought me to it. He brought me through it. And it's a badge of honor. When this many people, evil intentions, are upset by what I'm doing. So it proves that I'm over the target.
Amen, sister.
And we do have an ongoing federal lawsuit with the school district too. That's
still,
I don't know if we talked about it in the film, but Pam Bondi, who's now the Attorney General of the United States, took our case 2 years ago, we filed it. And her team at America First Policy Institute is still in the lead on our case. We have multiple firms who are involved, but we're sitting at the appellate court in the 10th Circuit right now.
All right.
And what's so cool is that we went into our oral argument for the appeal thinking, every court in the country has thrown this out. They don't want to make this decision. All the lower court judges are throwing it up to the Supreme Court like, nope, we're not going to decide what a parent is. We're not going to confirm that parents have constitutional rights. And so we went into this appellate court with 3 Obama-appointed judges thinking clearly this is just going to go nowhere. And it was totally in our favor.
Wow.
You get 10 minutes to argue in federal court. They gave my lawyer 30. They asked thoughtful questions. They asked great follow-ups. It was clear that they were morally on our side. When the opposition got up, the school district's lawyer got up and he started with the argument of, well, these are just overbearing parents who want to control their kids. And the judge quickly shut that down. One of the judges, there's 3, he said, so this was okay? You'd be okay if this happened to your child? This is totally fine. Like, clearly morally on our side. Then he shifted to, well, these are just rogue teachers. And another judge said, well, then why did they keep their job? And why do they still run this club? And he said, oh, well, who says parents have constitutional rights? And so it was just clear that there was no argument and that the judges were on to him, that they have no defense for what they're doing to children like mine all over the country. So we're in a hopeful place. We're still waiting for a decision to be made, but it's kind of like we win either way. Either we go back to trial court or we have a really clear-cut appeal to the Supreme Court. And our lawsuit has standing, and the Supremes are asking for a case like ours that has standing. So we're in a really good position.
Well, good. Praise the Lord. I mean,
right?
What? the Lord will make a way, and it's so amazing. It's so fun to catch up with you and to see everything that's going. So what now are you doing? Because tell me about Protect Kids Colorado.
Yeah, so our legislature is insane. Let's start there.
Yes,
I've videos on my social media. We are run by a radical supermajority here in Colorado. They have all control. We have crazy NGOs that are in there pushing the TQ plus agenda down our throats. They just passed a law to make it illegal to misgender a dead person. They made it a misdemeanor criminal offense, punishable by up to 120 days in jail if a coroner will not falsely record the biological sex of a dead person on the death certificate.
Oh, my word.
So that passed. They passed a law last year that teachers are mandated by law to call a child whatever they want to be called, even if it's a girl on Monday, a boy on Tuesday, a cat on Wednesday. The child is 5 years old and the parents say, don't do it. The teachers are now required by law to transition children.
What?
They force therapists to only affirm gender confused kids. And actually there's a case sitting at the Supreme Court. I wrote an amicus hoping they'll take it up to strike that law down. But they are just stripping away our parental rights, stripping away our First Amendment rights, our rights to free speech. It's insane. It's like absolute upside down clown world.
Yeah.
In the Colorado legislature. And people are starting to show up. There's people from around the country who are flying in to testify. We're pushing back, but it's not making a difference.
Right.
And so Protect Kids, we started that to be a We the People movement. There are 26 states that have a citizens ballot initiative process, mostly Western, the newly formed states. And this is a means for people to put anything they want on the ballot. We take it to what's called the title board. We present our law, and then we have to get so many signatures to put that before the voters to pass citizen law. And so last year we ran Keeping Boys Out of Girls Sports and Parents' Right to be Notified if their child's been transitioned at school. As I said, we didn't quite make the ballot, but we made huge headway.
Yeah.
This year we're going to run a total ban on the gender mutilation of minors and really stopping child sex trafficking by making it a class 1 felony, life in prison, no chance of parole if you buy or sell a child for sex. And we might also run the girls sports initiative again. If not, we'll run it next cycle.
Yeah.
So we're going to continue to push these laws, push back on laws that will eradicate all of the horrible laws that have been passed since 2019 here in Colorado and give rights back to the people. And again, 80% of Americans agree with us.
Yes.
If it's on the ballot, it will pass.
Yeah.
So how long have the legislators been in their positions? Because do you just not have good conservative legislators, running, or is it there's just been such a stronghold there in Colorado for so long? Like, what's your take
about it? Yeah,
really.
A book I keep here on my shelf called The Blueprint, and I recommend everyone everywhere read this book.
Okay.
It's literally a blueprint for how to flip a state blue. And so what happened is in about 2012. 4 billionaires, including our current governor, Pat Stryker, who's one of the leading funders of the transgender movement globally, Tim Gill, who runs a LGBTQ organization, just got the Medal of Freedom from Biden. They came in and basically bought Colorado. And their unifying front was that we're all Democrats. It doesn't matter what that means. We're together no matter what. And so a combination of money and sticking together behind being a D on the ballot, whatever that means, is how they took over this state. And, Republicans in my state are doing the opposite. They're infighting. They're unwilling to put their money where their mouth is. And that's how we win. That's how we could win this state back, but they've got to be willing to do those things. And so they're 2-year terms in the Colorado House, but these billionaires continue to buy our elections here. They don't represent the will of the people.
Wow. Well, I'm definitely going to get that book and read it.
So explain this for somebody who's listening. What do you mean when you say they buy the elections? How do they do that?
You funnel their money into, they choose the most strategic seats that are available, the most winnable seats, and they flip the purple areas. They flip the Denver suburban area. They have flipped some seats in Colorado Springs, which is like a huge spiritual Christian mecca. Like it's insane that they have actually a non-binary representative from Colorado Springs. Who demands that we call her Mix Chair instead of Ms. Chair in our committees. It's wild. But that's it. They just strategically funnel their money into the right races to continue the stronghold in the legislature. And they've successfully discouraged good people from running. That's especially true in our school boards. The school boards are so dominated by the federal teachers unions, by the local teachers unions, that people are afraid to run. It's becoming impossible to compete with the money that they pull in. Our last school board election here in Fort Collins, Colorado, I looked into the funding in 2021. It was the Gates Foundation, the Rockefellers, the NEA, the AFT, like these huge global organizations pouring money into my little school board, but they're doing it all over the country.
Yeah. I know it's mob mentality.
Well,
That's exactly what
and as we keep saying on our podcast, this fight is not over. Just because we won the White House,
Yeah.
I mean, we're happy. There's great things happening at the federal level, but the states are going to double down now. It's just like what happened after Roe v. Wade got overturned. The radical states got even more radical.
And think
a lot
about
of the conservative Christians went back to sleep.
right. And think about they're talking about abolishing the Department of Education. When that happens, it gets kicked back to the states. So that's what we try to tell people all the time. Your local elections matter more than you can even imagine.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I keep telling people, well, first of all, we cannot get complacent. Christians, conservatives, now is not the time to sit back. What I keep equating it to, like Donald Trump pushed the pendulum back. It had swung so far to the left that he tipped it back, but it's up to us to keep pushing it. There's only so much he can do by controlling federal funding.
Yeah.
For example, here in Colorado, less than 10% of our school district budgets are federal funded. So they are planning to triple down, forego federal funding, and just cause us local taxpayers to pay more money for their nonsense. We cannot rely on the federal government to fix everything. That will help us with the cultural war, which has to be won. Policy is downstream of culture. We've got to continue to speak out about what's happening, to push in our local areas, to inform people so that we win the culture. And that's how we win this.
Yeah. Hearts and minds. Oh my gosh.
I think I just ran into some old friends of mine a couple weeks ago. We were out to dinner, and they are from Indiana, but they're in Colorado now. They're not too far from you, and they own a bison ranch, right? Oh, wow. And as I'm talking to them, and I said, what in the world is going on in Colorado? And he just kind of went, you don't even want to know, right? Because Colorado, when I think of Colorado, and I've been there a few times as a kid, I mean, it's the Old West, right? It's the Wild West. It's cowboys and ranches and the mountains and everything, and it's nuts out there. It's like California with snow.
we're like, hold my beer.
I got you, California. I'll do you one better.
It was wild when we went. So we were lefties. We were non-believers. We were lefty voters when this insanity happened to our family, and we got red-pilled fast and hard. I mean, we are strong believers. We are strong conservatives now. But I fully expected that I would speak up about what happened and someone would support me. Yeah. That other parents in my community were like, "Oh wow, that's bad. You shouldn't have been lied to. That shouldn't have happened to your child." And instead, I was viciously attacked, as we referenced earlier. And it was insane to me. It's like all of these people have been deceived. But I believe turn off CNN and the whole world will fix itself. Turn off Main Street and we'll all be fine. But it's wild to see how people have been captured by this ideology that kids should be transitioned and it's harmful to speak up about it. And it's just wild.
It's amazing how much fear people have just for standing up and saying, hey, it's wrong to cut healthy body parts off of children. Why is this difficult?
Well, as we've been talking about for the past couple of weeks, we've been talking a lot about occultism, and the more what you're describing is a cult through and through, which is part of the occult. You know, all of this. So the teachers that are pushing it aren't necessarily, playing with Ouija boards and burning sacrifices in their backyards at night.
Although many are.
Although there definitely are some.
We did highlight the blood witch that came in, and you let these people talk to children at school? What?
Yeah, tell that story about Silen the Blood Witch, because we didn't get to give it a lot of time in Dysphoria. This is nuts.
and apparently very commonplace. I see
Yes.
it all over the country. But I started to do public record requests because someone taught me how to do that. That's everyone's right in the whole country. You can see what your school district is doing, their emails, their calendars, their finances. And I learned that one of the people invited into my daughter's art club, the Secret Sexuality Club, was a self-proclaimed genderqueer shape-shifting blood witch. A young woman who openly, through her website or blog, through performances in our community, on her social media, does rituals with her own blood, believes that her pronouns are goat self. She writes blogs about Aleister Crowley kink sex dungeons that are available for the kids that she works with to see. She gets brought in by her school district to train teachers, 2 courses, the ABCs of LGBTQ and How to Be a Trusted Adult to LGBTQ, which is 30 slides of why you must medicalize all gender confused children. And that one of them was mandated training for all staff in our 28,000 student district. She gets brought in to re-educate teachers who are not willing to teach gender ideology. She meets alone off-site with students. She's on what they call the Comprehensive Sex Education Alliance that forms the comprehensive sex ed curriculum in our district. It's sick how deeply entrenched she is and celebrated for this occult behavior. And then our children are fed on a secret silver platter to these sick people. I mean, my jaw was on the floor when I learned what my kid had been exposed to. It's unreal.
Yeah.
Oh, and I would point out too, when you first talked about that and when we were interviewing you for Dysphoria, and I started massively researching her, and literally by the day, her videos were disappearing. Right. So I was trying to gather this stuff, and it was one day it's there and next day it's gone, because these people always run and hide. They're very proud of it until the light comes and starts exposing them. And she was starting to get some attention because of your case, and they start to run and hide. It's amazing.
The spiritual warfare is heavy.
Yeah.
I'll just say, like, when I expose these people, I feel it. I know that I need to get my armor straight and be ready for the blowback, because the enemy does not like it when we shine a flashlight
That is
on
true.
their evil. But you're right. They run like cockroaches. They run away when we expose what they're doing, because most people have the common sense that this is not okay.
Yeah.
And then I think the thing that really is most disturbing, I just question and I wonder, first of all, who suggested this person in the first place to come in and, quote, educate the teachers? And then the fact that you bring them in again to re-educate teachers, where is the moral compass of the schools at even? I mean, I can't even...
I can answer that. There is none. There's no moral compass. But they're in every level of my school district. So my school board, there's members who have trans kids, who work with the organization that groomed my daughter, who invite these people in openly, willingly.
It's all friends of friends.
Oh, we paid $150,000 to an organization called Chiefs for Change that sent us a superintendent. And Chiefs for Change is a very openly social justice warrior organization that strategically plants educational leadership around the country. So we paid for that. Our mental health department is completely captured. Every single counselor is promoting this witch. They formed an LGBTQ department, where they now pay an LGBTQ coordinator over $80,000 a year base, which is more than a tenured teacher with a master's degree makes in our district. And it literally has it in her job description to create gender support plans for more elementary students.
Oh, my word.
Train and coach students on LGBTQ issues. I mean, they're just so brazen.
This is happening right now.
Every level.
Like, this is happening right now, today.
Right now. So our district is facing closures. They are facing financial issues. And meanwhile, they're giving themselves raises. They're firing teachers, but they're giving themselves raises and maintaining they will not get rid of their DEI department, including this LGBTQ lady.
Wow.
It's just, like we said, it's just like after Roe v. Wade was overturned, the radical states just got worse. And that's exactly what's happening. They do not care that the nation doesn't want this. They have felt empowered, and they're
not willing to give it up.
At a basic level, they're incompetent anyway. You always know that about them, but they're wicked. They're not
wicked. And I didn't even get to the abortion issue. So past election cycle, Colorado voters through ballot initiative, like the ones that I run, voted for a constitutional measure. So it's now in the Constitution, abortion up until birth, including after birth, no resuscitation for children who survive. And they eliminated any adult notification or consent. So now any aged child can be trafficked to the state of Colorado by their sexual trafficker, by their abuser to have an abortion, and there is no safeguard to alert any adult that it's happening. So we truly have become a trans and abortion sanctuary state. And now they're passing more laws. We have one going through right now called Senate Bill 129, which doubles down on the trans and abortion sanctuary state mandate here in the state. It makes it so that doctors can prescribe these drugs anonymously and never be held accountable. And it eliminates any course of action for a detransitioner. So no medical board, the federal government, no one can even investigate. It'll be illegal to submit any information to a subpoena on someone who's being investigated for malpractice relating to abortion or gender transition.
Well, and that's what I say. It's sick and demented, but they're able to get away with it because they have people in the legislature who are willing. They know they're going to be able to pass it. If you are buying your legislators, you can do anything.
Yeah, it's just, I think a lot of people have, now we've been so focused on watching what Trump has been doing, and it's been like Christmas every day, right? Just seeing the stuff that they're doing. But at the state and local level, it's just, they're just getting more nuts.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So what's your advice to parents or people who they're not sure how to get involved, where to get involved? Where do they go? What can they do?
You brought up a great point that local issues matter the most. I think the most influence anyone has is with their own sphere and their own community. And so I always say, start with finding like-minded parents, whether that's Moms for Liberty, a church group, a state organization. Like we have Colorado Parent Advocacy Network that just keeps people informed and has a reporting tool. So people can report incidents in that can be exposed and handled, and there's legal support. And I just think we need to surround ourselves with like-minded people first and foremost, but pay attention. Get your kids the heck out of public schools. Don't in any circumstance let your kids go to public schools. They're not safe. We need to fold that system by pulling our kids out. It's irredeemable in all 50 states. But just pay attention to what your legislature is doing. Show up to testify. Show up to give testimony at your local school board. Get involved in local elections. School board elections matter. We're a local control state here in Colorado, so the district has full control of whatever our kids are exposed to. And again, they're being bought by globalists.
Yeah.
So it matters that we show up and support good people who are willing to put their hat in the ring. But first and foremost, talk about it.
Yeah.
Just talk about it. People don't know what they don't know. And we're not going to win the war. We're not going to win these legal wars. We're not going to win the cultural battle until more people wake up to what's happening. The willful ignorance and the apathy, we can combat that by just continuing to speak the truth unabashedly. As I said, I've learned in 4 years of being vocal that it doesn't matter what the world thinks about me. People might say mean things. You might get called some names on social media. You might have a family member who sends a mean text, but that doesn't matter. All that matters is informing people about what's happening, especially to our children.
Yeah.
Audience one.
Yeah. I think you made a good point about the disunity in the Republican, conservative, Christian side. We're harping on this all the time. We watched this in Indiana in the governor's race. The disunity was staggering, and I started calling people out and calling out these organizations, and then you're even more of a pariah, right? Then then they start coming after you just for pointing out what they're doing, and we've got
it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. We have, and when it gets to that point, you have to be the bigger person, right? And say, I'm not getting into this with you. I'm staying focused on the important issue right now. You're wrong. We're going to keep moving on.
Well, that's why I always say the church is going to fix this. Politicians are not going to fix this.
Yeah.
We the people have to take matters into our own hands. So I'm actually from Indiana too. I'm from Mooresville, Indiana, and I have the funniest story about Mike Braun. I used to harass him as a crazy liberal leftist woman because I was so angry about him standing up for things that the mainstream media told me he shouldn't be standing up for, and I would send him nasty grams. And I met him last year. I was at the Capitol for an event, and I met him and I told him this, and we had the best laugh. And now he's your governor, and I have a lot of faith in Mike Braun for Indiana. It came full circle for me. I admitted it. I was like, I'm sorry. I was a crazy leftist. And now I'm making up for the error of my ways. So it's never too late to come to the right side, to come to your senses.
Well, and Micah Beckwith, who's in Dysphoria with you, is now the lieutenant governor.
What?
Yes.
Yeah, I just, that's so cool.
Yep. Oh, that is awesome. I mean, and I think it's such a great. Can you tell us at what point you came out of the leftist idealism and actually looked at what you were doing and the things that you believed? How did you come out of that, Erin?
I mean, it was a process. The moment I woke up was the day my daughter came home and proclaimed she was a transgender boy. And then as people started to not help me, so I would go to my local media and they wouldn't cover my story, but they would cover other stories of kids being abused. It was clear that mine just didn't fit their narrative. And then I had family members who would condemn me, and, you know, people in our life who would say, you got to go along with it. You've got to affirm her, who were going against my parental instinct. Like, you're not safe. That doesn't feel right. I don't agree with that anymore. And so it was a process. My faith had a lot to do with it. You know, the Lord put the right people in my path to show me the right way out of the darkness, to show us that our daughter has to find her identity in Christ, or she's going to be trapped in searching for it forever. And so our faith had a lot to do with it. But it was a progress over the year of a progressive thing over the year of saving our daughter from this cult.
So, but it didn't take you long. Once your eyes were open, it didn't take you long.
That was it. And I caution people now, make the change before it's too late. Like, I got punched in the face with reality of what leftism means, what globalism means. Most people aren't going to have that wake up call. So they've got to start paying attention before this kind of thing happens to their family.
Yeah, and that's that we find that a lot, especially because of the research that we do, the films that we put out, and you know, there are some like, well, it's not affecting my family, so it doesn't matter. Well, you can say that and it doesn't matter, but truthfully, you know, just like the world, we're all in this together. Unfortunately, whoever your children are going to meet, these children who are trapped and stuck in this mindset, and you never know where you're at. So if it's not directly, it's indirectly affecting your family.
Yeah. Well, we've got a whole generation of children who don't even know what their sex is. Like, we've confused a whole generation of kids about their biological sex. They are going to be confused about everything for the rest of their life. And that affects all of us.
Yeah.
This is our future, you know, doctors, lawyers, politicians. It matters.
Hey, and what happens to all of us when we're older and dependent upon these people?
Right.
Well, you know, it's
all of us.
It's interesting to bring that up, because Jeff Younger in Dysphoria and Title IX, he talks about how if there's this disconnect, the demoralization, removing morals, and if you don't have morals, then you can't understand basic things. You can't understand how to
right from wrong.
Right from wrong. You can, and everything starts to fall apart fundamentally. And I remember years ago, I was asked to teach a filmmaking class for elementary students at the Science Museum. Remember this?
Yep.
Here in town. And so they said, well, come up with a list of, you know, kind of requirements for kids that want to apply. And I said, well, they could either, you know, they need to do something like write an essay or shoot a short video or, you know, draw a picture, something like that to say kind of why I want to be part of this. And they came back, and this was probably 20 years ago. They came back and they said, well, this whole thing about requiring them to write, some of them can't write. They can't read and write. And so you have to take that out. And I remember looking at them and saying, if you can't read and write, you're going to have a really hard time in the film business. It's kind of what we do every day, right? And I didn't understand then. That was the beginning of this detachment from reality that we're seeing now. Now you can't even tell them biological fact anymore.
Right. Well,
And they're criminalizing it through law.
Yeah.
Isn't that insane?
Yes.
I tell parents all the time who are like, I don't know how to start the conversation. Well, let's just start with 80% of kids can't read and write.
Yeah.
Like we can remove all the social stuff from the equation. Why don't you start the conversation with other parents of our kids are failing academically. Our country is failing academically. That's a really good starting point. But to Jeff's Younger's point, and God bless him, I'm just so heartbroken for what's happened with his sons.
Yeah.
I know he'll see them again someday and they will thank him for standing strong in truth. But I tell people all the time, kind of like when I coach parents who are going through this, which is hundreds and hundreds of parents come to me with gender confused children. And I always, at the end of the day, it usually arrives in the conversation when I say, but have you gone to church? But have your kids tried finding their identity in the Lord? Because they're going to keep searching the world until you do that, whether it's drugs or sex or whatever, that's going to have to be your compass. And that's true for us as a society. We've got a book that tells us what's right and true. And I think most people are practicing what I call toxic empathy, toxic kindness. They think they're doing the right thing. They're misguided on what right and kind is because they don't follow our moral compass, which is the Bible.
That's right.
And so until we turn our whole nation back to God and that as our true north, people are going to continue to do the wrong thing under the impression that they're being kind and doing the right thing.
Yep.
Most teachers are in that camp.
I'm just gonna call it right now. I'm gonna pitch you a project, Erin. You need to, when you write your book, it needs to be called Toxic Empathy. That's a great title.
Well, Ali Beth Stuckey just put out that book. She already got it.
Ow, come on.
I think it's like toxic kindness or something. Yeah.
Well, see, I mean, I was right.
Good idea.
I'm an idea guy.
It's a great book. I haven't read it yet, but I've
I'm
skimmed
sure
through
it's
the notes,
great.
and I know people who've read it. I encourage people to read that book. It's a very knowledgeable resource.
I'll have to go and look up that one now too. Oh, geez. Okay. So, Erin, what would you leave people with? How to get involved through your organization. What is your best piece of advice for parents? Somebody listening to this and saying, hey, I don't see this happening in my hometown or my rural school district or, what do they need to be doing?
Before we even get to that, our work starts in our own home. So my message to parents is always 4 things. 1, teach your kids these 4 things early and often. 1, safe adults don't ask you to keep secrets. Doesn't matter what the secret is, they shouldn't do that. 2, no one should ask you to label yourself. You're a kid. You don't need a political party, a pronoun. You have time to figure it out. 3, trust your instinct. If something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. And you have the authority to remove yourself from something that doesn't feel right. And 4, we are fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of God. We are only male and female. We cannot become the opposite sex, and there's no wrong way to be a boy or a girl. And I think if we are teaching parents to speak those things over their kids. I mean, I have a 4-year-old. I teach him these things all the time. It's part of our nightly routine to go over these things. It's so important because the world's going to come at them. And this ideology has a stranglehold on our culture. And we've got to inoculate our kids before it happens to them. But more broadly in your community, as I said, get involved at the local level, find like-minded people, support good candidates, join good efforts. Our ballot initiatives here, people can take a petition, get 40 signatures. It's not hard to do, but you then become an integral part of this process of taking our state and our country back. So there are all kinds of efforts like that locally in your states and your communities where you can get involved even just a little bit to make a big difference. And people can follow me. I go by Erin for Parental Rights on all social media platforms. And I encourage people to watch my film, artclubmovie.com, and check out protectkidscolorado.org. What we're doing here can be replicated in every state. And I would love to help people with that process.
Yep. Amen, sister. I'm going to leave the links for everybody in the show notes so that they can connect with you. Thank you so much for coming on the show with us again. And God bless you and your efforts and everything that you're doing and your family. I can't wait for us to get to Colorado to be with you.
I can't wait. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, Erin. We'll see you. Hey, thank you guys for watching our interview with Erin. And isn't it amazing and fascinating all at the same time? I had to go back and look to see the population of Colorado, 5.8 million people. And she was talking about a tiny portion, not even 1%, 1,000 people who gathered to get signatures to make changes in their state.
If I could quote from Batman Begins.
Okay.
Skill is nothing, will is everything.
Okay.
the will to act.
Okay.
There you go.
Without further ado, that's all the time we have for today, friends. Thanks for listening through to the end, and be sure to click that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And share this with your family and friends. Until next time, march on, saints, and be filled with the Spirit.
I am dangerous. You're everyone's problem. I don't like you because you're dangerous.